The YouTube channel No Clip Game History Archive uploaded footage of an E3 behind closed doors presentation of a very early build of Knights of the Old Republic from 2001. Link in the description. It opens up by showing some concept art and they show this image. I think I might try using this image for the Discord server instead of this one for a while. That seems cool. Now we know this character as Jolie Bindo, but the man doing the presentation says something else.
What you're looking at here is an example of a character you might create during the character creation process. So during character creation, you're going to be able to choose between 3 different racial types. You'll be able to choose between 6 different classes, whether you want to be male or female. You'll be able to choose your name, whatever name you want. You'll be able to choose all of your skills and your feats. Essentially, you're going to be able to customize your character as much as you'd be able to customize a character in any of the other BioWare role-playing games.
So right off the bat, an idea they originally had was a much deeper character creation system. When they say that you can choose between 3 different racial types though, I don't think he means alien races, just among humans still. I also noticed that the character is smiling in this image. That made me realize that no one ever smiles in KoTOR 1 or 2. We got some laughing animations, but no smiles that I can remember. The reason they had to abandon this, I suspect, was due to technological limitations, and that perhaps is the case for everything else we see in this presentation. The game that allowed them to implement this was Mass Effect, but they infamously still had issues with it even in the 4th game, Mass Effect Andromeda.
My face is tired.
The issue comes down to animation. With such a robust character creation system, you can't feasibly animate every single possible combination by hand, so you'll need to rely on some sort of procedural solution, which is something they were planning on implementing, as they show later on. At one point, KoTOR seemingly had a different animation system altogether, and it seemed more fluid too. More movements, more stances, and procedural voice acting animations.
Part of being able to pull off good voice acting is lip syncing, which normally takes a lot of time to hand animate. So with Knights of the Old Republic, we're going to use procedural lip syncing so that we can give a character a WAV file and they'll be able to speak it. And by doing this, it means that we can get all of the dialogue for the game fully voice acted and lip synced.
I will never fall to the dark side. I will never fall to the dark side.
Why they couldn't implement this in the released game remains a mystery to me. I'm not sure if it impacts hardware system requirements in any way, but that's the only assumption I can think of. This animation right here had me intrigued. I can't read the labels of the animations on the window, but it seems like our bastard looking character is stealing something or maybe pickpocketing. I've been streaming a playthrough of KoTOR where I use stealth and sneak through as much of the game as possible. I've often suggested that a pickpocketing mechanic would have been very beneficial. This and something else they say later on might suggest that it was an idea they had at one point. Next up, we're on Tatooine, and the presenter mentions that it's one of 8 worlds that we'll be visiting. If we don't count Yavin Station, because that was technically added as DLC, then we visit 7 different planets. But at this point in development, it's safe to say that Slahedon was still planning to make an appearance. It's difficult to not notice the heads-up display, specifically the numbers and what they might represent. One seems to be an ammo counter for your blasters. The other 2? I assume hit points and force points. Tatooine itself looks quite different. You can see many NPCs on screen walking through the streets, speeders cruising through the road, and NPCs reacting to player actions.
Move along. Until the cargo ship is finished loading, this docking facility is off limits.
Now remember what I said about stealing and pickpocketing being a potential mechanic in the game at one point?
The subplots in Knights of the Old Republic are going to be the most deep and fully realized subplots that we've done so far. They won't be your average fetch and retrieve quest. They're also going to have multiple routes through them, so you'll be able to choose whether you want to use stealth or role-playing or the most popular, force, to get through any of the quests in the game.
Stealth was left as a skill in the finished game. Most, if not all, of the quests involve you having to eventually break out of stealth to complete them though. Completing entire quests using just stealth must have meant that they had ideas to make it a deeper system and more viable. Not to say that stealthing through the game is impossible, I will get back to streaming the playthrough, but last time I did, we got all the way to Korriban as the 4th planet. Many, including myself, doubted that I would make it that far. On top of that, it wasn't until I made it to the bridge of the Leviathan that I realized that I had been playing the game on the highest difficulty, not normal, so it's more viable than you think. Now this scene here shows and suggests a few things.
Sir,
What are you still doing out here? Your mission was clear. The Jedi Council expects you to be on board that ship. You have to hurry, sir. It's about to launch.
First, you'd notice the animations on the droid and how much more animated the NPC looks. Secondly, the ship leaves without you. Was that scripted? Does that always happen, or could you have gotten there on time and changed the direction of the quest? I wonder why it was so important to the Jedi Council that I'd be on it. So many questions. But next, we're on Taris.
This is an all-new world. It's called Taris, and it's a giant city world that's currently under siege by Sith troopers.
It seems at one point, instead of it being the Endar Spire over Taris, the first battle takes place on Taris itself, and instead of this Jedi vs Sith fight, we get this one. You'll quickly notice the fluid and cinematic animations. People were still impressed with how the combat played out in the final game using turn-based Dungeons & Dragons rules, but this does look better. However, I doubt that it would have looked exactly like that when it came to personal combat. I think the roll and backstab was for cinematic purposes. Then finally we see Swole Malak appear, in all his thick, Roblox looking glory. They obviously improved on his design quite a bit in the finished product. It never surprises me, but it always fills me with a modicum of disappointment whenever I see footage like this. Footage that shows how so many games begin with a very ambitious vision, but over time, due to many factors I'm sure, the developers find themselves scaling it back. The same thing happened with Bioshock Infinite, Fallout New Vegas, and Deus Ex, just to name a few. I suppose it's better than the game ideas that never even get the opportunity to be made or completed though. Like Star Wars 1313, or that KoTOR remaster that was once pitched to BioWare. What was that? You didn't hear about that? Well then, you can click the video on screen now and learn all about it.